So today I'm going to discuss about UX laws and creating wireframes. These topics we covered last week, and these topics were already done a week before last. So I think you have a clear idea about the UX process and methods we use in the UX process, the research methods and all, and how you can apply the UX design process practically in a project when you get a project. And what is empathy and why is it so important in design thinking? As you know, the empathy or the research about your users is the first step in the UX design process. So empathizing with your users is really important if you want to create a successful product. And then we talked about user interviews and competitor analysis, which comes under research phase or the ideation phase, where we interview few users and get their valuable feedback or uh, get to know their idea about your application or the competitor applications. And then we do competitor analysis as well in order to know about the competitors and get to know where you stand when comparing to your competitors. And then we went through creating personas. I introduced you how to create a persona and how you can put a picture and what are the things that you should put in a persona. And then finally, we give you an example about a user flow and how important these user flows are when it comes to designing a wireframe or even designing a final project using visual designs. Okay, then we talked about color psychology and color theory. We talked about how different colors convey different human emotions and how you can apply these different colors to your designs to give the message to your end users in a tone that you want them to capture your message that you want to give. And then we talked about color theory and the color wheel, how you can play with the color wheel and get different color combinations. At the same time, I talked about gradients and so on in the color theory. And then we talked about typography. And I told you how it is really important to select a good typography based on your end users. So if you are designing an application for a professional or the corporate people, you have to decide on certain uh, type of typography. And whereas if you want to design something for a kids or students, you have to decide on some other playful or typography that you can get their attention to. And then we talked about style guide and the design system and also the branding guidelines. I told you how we can differentiate between these three items. So the uh, style guide is something you create when you create a brand logo or something like that. And in the style guide, what we do is if you create a website, you put all these elements in a style guide where users or the any designer who take over your project after you complete the project and can refer to this style guide and follow the design process, and the designs will be uniform, so it will maintain the consistency throughout if you have a good style guide in place. And I introduced you to design systems as well, where I followed atomic design principles to create small elements and moving on to create the large elements, the screens, by using those basic elements. And branding guidelines is something that every brand designer or when client come up with a project idea, if we don't have any brand, if you don't have any logo or the typeface he decided or the color theme, you can provide them with a style guide, so he can follow this style guide throughout his process, and he can send it to social media managers or anyone who is involving in these designs to follow this style guide and maintain consistency in their designs. So that is style guide. So today we are going to cover UX laws and creating wireframes. Do you have any questions regarding past sessions? Okay, UX laws, the collection of laws or design standards that designers must take into account when thinking and improving the user experience. So those are UX laws. There are many UX laws actually, which actually adding to the list in daily basis as well. With the so much of UX research going on and so on. But these are some basic UX laws every UX designer should know before they move on to starting off with the UX design career. So let's start with the first one. First one is the Hicks law. Hicks law states that users spend more time making a decision based on the number of complexity of choices. So that means the more choices you given to your users, uh, more time they will take to make a decision. The more choices you present your users with, the longer it will take them to reach a decision. If you have a multiple tasks to complete within a limited time, you will take more time making a decision compared to if you have only two tasks to complete. So as you know, when you present your users with so many options or so many choices, especially let's say you are uh, let's say for an example, a ride sharing application. So we can compare applications such as Pick.me and Uber. In Pick.me homepage, they have so many options. They have options for ride sharing or the book a taxi or even Pick.me food marketplace, book a lorry or something, and book vehicles for later. There are so many options. So, but when compare it with the Uber application, they only have few options. The Uber rides or Uber Eats. So even the Uber Eats in the Uber main application, they have a very limited version. If you want to access Uber Eats fully functional application, you have to download a separate application. So in that way, they are limiting the options that they are giving to their users. So that is a good user experience. If you give more options, more features to your users, the time they spend on making a decision will take longer than you have very limited options. So we have to make sure we only give them the necessary options and don't try to give them more options just to impress them. So it will actually negatively affect your product. All right. So this is an example. Reduce the options for time critical tasks. The more choices you give a user, the longer it takes for them to make a decision. So in the left hand side, we are asking the question, how are you feeling today? And we are giving them a select drop down with so many options. Awesome, amazing, great, fine. And the list goes on. But on the right hand side, we have only four options. How are you feeling today? And we are giving them radio buttons where they can select easily rather than scrolling down and decide on how exactly are they feeling and try to differentiate between the awesome and amazing. But in right hand side, we have only four options. So you can decide, am I feeling awesome or good? Or only these four options. So it is really easy for users to decide how they feel and make a decision really quickly. Reduce the options for time critical tasks. So even here in this restaurant menu in a website, they have options, vegan chocolate chips, cookies, and so on. So if you categorize them properly, if you put them in a categories, let's say for an example, vegan, it will benefit for your users. So they know that these categories belong to the vegan people and you can categorize based on chocolate or what is the flavor. So that is a good user experience practice in order for you make your users life easier by giving them less choices and they will spend less time when making a choice if you give them few options rather than giving them so many. So even here we have one click buy option. So even in the other websites such as Amazon or even Dara's application, we have add to cart button and buy now. So if you don't want any other products to add to your cart, you can just search for the product that you want and click on buy now button and it will directly uh, get you to the checkout page. So you can easily check out and do the payment and get the product easily. And even here, quick login option given. So most of the websites that we interact with now have this Google login and the Facebook login option. So if you already sign in with Facebook or Google on your browser, when you try to install application, when you try to log into a website, it will make the user's life easier. So they don't have to fill a form and give their username or the password or anything. So if you have an account in these social media accounts, you can quickly sign in without an issue. Number two, example number two is break down complex processes into small steps. So in here, the example on the right hand side, it has few steps. Number one, when you try to fill a form and select a subscription plan, number one, they are asking for the basic details. So these can be the basic details, the first name, last name, and so on, and the company details. So after you fill the basic details, we are guiding them to the company details, and then the subscription plan. They give an option to select the subscription plan, and finally they can do the payment and uh, subscribe to the whatever the plan they have selected. But on the left hand side also, we have this breadcrumbs, so the users know that where they are in the process. They completed the card process, and now they are in the information. They have to complete shipping and payment. So that is another way that you can break down complex processes into small steps. So if I show you an example, so in here, in here also, this is actually for a lost item found finder application. So I have added location and date as the first step. The second, they have to input item details, and finally the person details and do the payment. So in that way, we can give options. So if you put all these information, location and date, item details, personal details together in the same form, it will be hard for users. So they have to go through so many things, and they have to put attention to so many things at once. So that is not a good user experience for them. So you have to break down complex processes into small steps in order to make their life easier and make their decisions faster. Next, we have categorized choices to make them easier to search for and identify. So if you go to websites such as Netflix, or if you download the Spotify application, we always have categories based on the movie genres or even the music types. So that will give users freedom to select what they like. If they prefer a certain category, they can browse through that category and select whatever the movie, whatever the song that they prefer. So categorization is also a good practice in order to give them less options, and if you want them to spend less time when making a choice. Next one is highlight recommended options. So in this example here, the green color button is the recommended option for the users. So this cookie consent pop-up, most of the websites have that right now. So if you provide them with this kind of a highlighted option, they know that this is the recommended option that developers or the website is providing. So they will click it without even knowing. So that is the recommended option that you can use in your designs. So even here, when searching for the flight prices, they have given this is the recommended option. So all the recommended options are listed down. So it can be based on the price that you have to pay or the time duration of the entire journey. So they have recommended these options and users can select easily what they prefer. All right, that is Hicks law. And then we are going to discuss about the Fitts law. Fitts law states that the larger the distance and the smaller the size of the target, the longer it will take. According to this law, fast movements and smaller targets results in greater error rates due to the speed accuracy trade-off. So in order to avoid that, we have to create larger targets and increase the surface area of call to action buttons. Call to action buttons are something like in the website, we have call to actions buttons such as next or fill a form, sign up, login. So those are the call to action button. You are calling for an action from your user. Okay. Now minimize movement. So if you have your form right here and you have to fill the form, and after you filling the form, if your users have to scroll all the way down your application, it is not a good user experience. So if you want to minimize movement, you have to put your call to action buttons right next to the form. So that is a good user experience. Make some actions harder than others. So that so if you want to deactivate your Facebook profile or the LinkedIn account, you have to go through several steps. You first might have to go to the account, then settings, and then there can be another roadblock where you have to inside the deactivation. And even when you try to deactivate your account, it will be in red color and you might have to put your password again. So they are making some actions harder than others because they don't want you to leave their platform. So that is why they make some actions harder than others. So that is they are following Fitts law. So in this example right here, the smaller your target area is, the longer it takes the user to perform that action based on the distance size ratio. So this is not a good user experience. So let's say for an example, user is trying to fill this form and they try to click this button. So these buttons in the first place, they are too small. So users can't click them in the first go. They have to focus and they have to move their mouse thinking where they should actually click. But on this right hand side example, the call to action buttons are larger and users can click them easily. The target area is large and they can perform the action faster, and uh, it is actually based on the distance and size ratio. So the distance between the form and the call to action button is smaller and the sizes of the call to action buttons are larger as well. So that is a good user experience practice. All right, in this example here, we have this form and the form input fields are larger. So if you put form input fields little smaller, the users will find it hard to uh, go through or to fill the form automatically. So they have to put their attention to the form and uh, scroll to that particular area and fill the form. So this is a really good user experience when you give larger target areas. Number two, in applications such as Figma or even Adobe Photoshop or any image editing software, they placing commonly used function together to reduce the cursor movement. So if you want to drag or if you want to draw some item, if you want to create some logo or text, you can grab these tools in the same place. So that reduces the cursor movement. So you know that where your all tools are, you don't have to search for them. And all these elements that require you to design something are uh, in a similar place, which reduces the cursor movement as well. Okay, now this call to action button right here, it is large. So if you put a call to action button smaller, it will negatively affect your user experience. So always a good practice to give them a good space, give them a right amount of size for the call to action buttons where they can click them easily and move on with the design. All right. To prevent frequent accidental shutdowns on their phones, Apple makes users swipe a slider to turn off their phone. And to resign a power off, all users have to do is the press cancel button. So Apple and even Android devices now have this slide power off option. So if they try have their phone in their pocket and if it is an accidental click or accidental touch on their screen, it won't turn off. So you manually have to drag your button to turn it off. If you want to come out of this slide to power off option, you can click on this cancel option and use your phone normally. The cancel button's consequence doesn't compare to turning the phone off. So Apple makes it easier to accidentally press it. So no accidental presses when you try to switch off your phone. So even in the applications where they have to enter your banking details or the credit card details and do a payment, especially for the large amount of payment, they have this kind of option. So slide to make the payment, slide to proceed. So that is a good user experience because some users might press the button accidentally. So we can avoid that by using this kind of a UI and user experience. Okay, fit slow on for mobile devices. So as you can see on the design, the left hand, if you use your device using left hand, this is the neutral area for you. So you can use your thumb in the green highlighted area easily, but for the light blue area, you have to stretch your finger to reach to that area. And this darker blue area is even harder. So you have to make sure to put your call to action button in this green color highlighted area. Otherwise, users have to use their both hands to click the button. This one, the right hand side, similar to the left one, but the opposite. So it is hard for them to reach to the top part, to top left part. And this neutral area is the area that they can reach easily. So if they are using both hands to uh, uh, do their task, these are the hard areas and these are the stretching areas, and this is the neutral area, natural area where they can uh, click easily. So you have to make sure you put all your necessary call to action buttons in the green color area rather than putting them on blue color area. So that is fit slow on mobile devices. Okay, we talked about Hicks law and Fitts law. Now it's Jacob's law. Jacob's law states that when users are used to using a product, then users build their expectation around one familiar product that appears similar. Because users spend most of their time on the other sites, they expect your site to work in the same way as other sites they have already visited. So let's say for an example, you want to create a e-commerce website where you sell product to your customers. When creating this site, you neglected the all other competitors and you haven't done the research or anything, and you place your items, let's say for an example, spacebar in some other place. Normally the like search bar, I'm sorry, search bar should be on top of the web page, but you placed it in some another place. So that is not a good user experience because users are so used to these layouts. When especially when they're searching for something, the search bar should be on top of the layout. So if you try to do something else, it is not a good user experience. So users have particular mental models when they browse internet, when they interact with different websites, or when they download mobile application, they expect some certain behavior, certain familiarity with these products. So if you can't maintain that familiarity or the similarity within your application, it will disappoint your users. So they won't use your application or they will delete your application altogether. So you have to make sure to research and follow these standards that other competitors or the other people set before you, and make sure to give your users something they already know in the design and the US uh, perspective. For instance, think how Amazon, Myntra, and most e-commerce sites behave. They follow similar patterns, similar checkout process. Most of the mental models are almost the same. This way, users will focus on their task rather than learning new models. So, as I mentioned in the first few sessions as well, users don't like to learn something new when using your application. So, they came here to do a particular task, they came here to buy a product. So, if you ask them to learn your user flow, you learn your checkout process, so that is not a good user experience. You have to follow these industry leaders and their UX processes and make sure to uh, add them to your designs as well. So in that way, you can give them some familiarity or the similar checkout process for your website as well, which will make their life easy. Both e-commerce websites using same size selection option and following the buttons and information on the right side and image on left. So in the example below, so both of these websites have their image on the left hand side and all the information necessary are on the right hand side. So the developers or the designers want users' attention to be on the left hand side. So that is the first thing that users do. So if you scan some users' eye movement or something like that when they uh, browse through internet, the first part they give their attention to is the left hand side top of your screen. So that is why they are using this image on the left hand side. So all the information necessary and the call to action information are on the right hand side. So if you're designing something, you have to follow the same thing. Otherwise, users will find it unfamiliar. So they won't, they might have to learn the process. So most of the users don't like to learn something new. So they don't have to actually. So make sure to follow the process as other e-commerce websites do. A great example is designing a page with a search bar. Users are accustomed to seeing a search bar near the top of the page, often with a magnifying glass icon. So in here also, I have the search bar on top with the magnifying glass icon. So even if you don't have this search text put in there, by seeing this magnifying glass icons, users get to know that this is the place that I can search for something. So you have to maintain the same standard in your user interfaces as well. If a designer decides to place the search bar in a completely new place on the page, it can create confusion for the user. If they want to continue using your site, they have to relearn where the search bar is, taking the extra time. So as I mentioned, if you place your search bar somewhere down or some other place that it normally that it doesn't appear normally, uh, the users have to learn and relearn where your search bar is. So that is not a good user experience, and it will take extra time and it will disappoint your users as well. So in this website, the Best Buy website, they have their search bar positioning on top. So most of the online e-commerce websites and even uh, the websites that they have so much content, they place the search bar on top where users can access it really easily. So that is a good user experience. All right. Now let's talk about Miller's law. Miller's law states that an average person can only keep 7 plus or minus in their working memory. Organizing content in smaller chunks will help user to understand, process, and memorize easily. So when we did typography also, I mentioned we can only memorize certain number of words or certain number of things in our working or the cognitive memory. So you have to apply that in your designs as well and organize the content in smaller chunks. So if you give them smaller chunks of details or the information, they will be able to understand it better and process and memorize easily. So that is what Miller's law is about. In this example here, display information in chunks. This way it is manageable to users to remember what they have consumed. So on the left-hand side example, we are giving them so many visualizations. Actually 4 visualizations, but on the right-hand side, we are only giving them two. So if you provide them with so many options, not even categorized and not even in smaller chunks, it will confuse them. They won't be able to remember all these things. And let's say for an example, these two visualizations are similar. So similar information is providing, but these two are something else. So you haven't categorized them properly as well. And this one, if they refer to this particular visualization and they can get an idea, then they can compare what they have learned from the first graph to the second one. So we are giving them the information in memorable chunks. So it will be easier for them to follow up and do the tasks or get the information that they needed from this infographics or the visualizations. Okay, in this example below, toggle keys are limited to 6 in the notification panels, reducing the cognitive load on the user. So when you use Android device, if you want to access the system settings or settings, when you scroll, it will only give you limited options. Only necessary options are displaying on top. If you want to access all the options, you have to uh, drag further. So it will give you all the options. So even in the first page, they will give you few number of options, and you have to scroll again to access all the information, all the options that they are providing. On sliding the notification panel, users get a view of quick panel setting where toggle keys are placed in rows and columns, making it easier for users to follow. So if you put all these buttons, all these toggle keys up here, users will find it hard to find what they actually need. So they can customize and put whatever the things that they need. And also we categorize them in order, mostly use order. So it will make it easier for users to follow up and do the actions that they prefer. Breaking checkout process into steps, creating placing for a card numbers. So in this example, in the credit card checkout page, we are putting the information, the card number, the name of the card, date of expiry, which they can get from the front side of their card. And then when they flip their card, they can get the CVV code and enter it as well. So that is another good user experience where you can uh, give users with less amount of options. So they can remember where they put their where they fill their form first and move on with the process without an issue. Okay, this one on the left hand side, the sign up form, it is not categorized or the grouped based on the information. Let's say for an example, you want to get personal information and the uh, qualifications that they have. This is a online application for a job. So if you give options like this, one by one underneath, it is not a good user experience. Users will find it hard to follow up. But if you can categorize or the group based on the personal information, educational qualifications, and the past experience, so it will be easier for users. So they know that they already filled personal information and they know that they currently filling experiences or the educational qualifications. So, and the next thing they have to do, they have an idea. So that is a good user experience if you categorize and group them in a similar different information that you needed. Okay, next we have serial position effect. This law states that we tend to remember the first and the last item in the series. There are two main concepts involved in the serial position effect. Number one is primary effect, where the tendency to recall the first item is called the primary effect because we require less processing effort in rehearsing the item. And number two is the recency effect. The tendency to recall the last item is called the recency effect because our working memory preserves a temporary information. So for an example, if I give you a list of names of some people, let's say I'm going to give you a list of 10 people. Most of you probably remember the first one and the last one. So if you remember the first one, that is because of the primary effect, the tendency to recall the first item uh, with your working memory. And the recency effect because that is the most recent one that you heard. So we normally remember this first and the last one on the list. So we can apply that in our user experience design as well. Highlight key information in the beginning and the end, while placing the least important items in the middle of your sequence. So if your website have terms and privacy, or if you want your users to accept some terms and privacy when they sign up or when they try to make a payment, if you display them like this, it won't give them a good idea. If they won't remember what they are accepting with. So if you can give an overview right here and the call to action button down here, they will remember what is the action they are performing. So that is a good user experience. That is serial position effect and primary effect and the recency effect in action. In this example, NFS speedometer is on the right side and map is on the left side in the display. So users can easily follow up what is happening and they can locate where they are and they can check the speed and what all the information displaying in the game screen. Instagram bottom navigation home is on the left and the profile option is on the right side. And all the least important options are in the middle. So if you want to access the feed, you can go to home button. If you want to access to your profile, it is on the right hand side. So this is the primary and the recency. All the other things are in the middle. So that is another good example of using this serial position effect in user experience or actual products. Okay, these are some options that you have to follow when you create user experiences. Number one is maintain task relevant information within the user interface. So for an example, in this particular layout, we have grid lines. When you're designing something, you have grid lines and the rulers and the page numbers are everything are task relevant information. So if I go so with the task relevant information, so the Figma UI is updated. Uh, this is the ruler and this other ruler. All the layers are up here and all the information or the properties are on the right hand side. So those are the task relevant information. So let's say for an example, you want to type something right here. So I'm going to use this one. So all the task relevant information regarding the typography are in the same place. They categorize them properly and the fill and all the appearance related stuff are here. So that is a good user experience you can have by putting task relevant information within the user interface without otherwise users have to follow the menu items and do the task. So earlier when they launched Photoshop and other products, users have to, if they don't remember any commands or the shortcuts, they have to navigate through these menu items and click. But right now we have all the necessary options up here and you can do your task easily without browsing or try to find the task in the menu. Number two, limit the amount of recall required. Filters, these are the filters chosen by the user whenever they need to remove one of these filters. Let's say they want to remove the shoe size of 7.5. They can click this cross icon and remove this particular filter. And these two filters will be there. And sort chosen by the user is also displaying here. So they can select different criteria to sort their items as well. Next one, emphasize key information in the beginning and end. So in the Apple website or any other product-based website, normally they try to tell you a story. So if they start off with all the information on top and all the um, unnecessary information on top of their page, it is not a good user experience. They are just putting simple information, the simple product details and the image of that, and then they will tell you a story. When you scroll down, they will have some animations and tell their story. So if I show you for an example, so this is the same patterns, the iPhone and what is it about, and they have put an image as well. So they tell you the story, what are the features and how it can be differentiated with other items, how you can compare, what are the other options that you have, all the things are there. And then finally, they will display you the pricing and all. If you want to buy it, you read the story. If you like the story that they are presenting, you can buy the product like this. Emphasize key information in the beginning and the end. Okay, next we have Zeigarnik effect. This happens with all of us. When we have some important task to do and when we forget to do it, we tend to feel bad about it. This is the Zeigarnik effect. It states that we remember uncompleted and uninterrupted tasks more than the completed tasks. So let's say you make a plan, like daily plan, daily routine, and you put in the morning routine, you want to go to gym or even go for a walk. So if you don't do it, you will remember. So if you do it, you won't even remember it because you feel good and you don't have to remember it because you can have to move on with your other task. But if you don't do it for, let's say you do it for a few days, 4 days, and suddenly you had some other task and you forgot to do it, and you will remember. So that is the Zeigarnik effect. So we can apply the same principle in digital world as well. So LinkedIn is apply this in their profile. LinkedIn profile strength meter shows one step remaining for the expert profile. So if you don't fill all the information that LinkedIn are prompting or asking, they will send you notifications, or they even prompt you to put all the information necessary to complete the profile. So every time you log into your LinkedIn account, when you see this kind of a progress bar, you can see that your profile is incomplete. So that is the message that they're trying to give you. So most of the users, by seeing this kind of a thing a few times, they uh, try to complete the profile. So that is their that is the psychology behind this, the Zeigarnik effect. And even here, step tracker showing remaining steps. So if you use a step tracker or some variable and set some goals, you want to walk 1,000 steps per day. So if you are not achieving that target, this will show you. So this is the graph. So if you are here, so you can feel that I haven't completed the task that I have to do in a weekly basis. So it will make you, and it will motivate you to do the task by following this visualization or the diagram. So that is Zeigarnik effect, and most of the companies, the social media companies, and even wearables or the health and fitness companies are using it. So they can use it in a good way or a bad way as well, especially in the Facebook or the LinkedIn or any other social media application that takes so much of your time in your daily basis. So they can use this in a bad way for asking you to upload a picture or view certain amount of stories or something like that. So as a user, you have to make sure to use this Zeigarnik effect good way to benefit you and use it productively. Like this kind of application, it is a good use, but in most of the time, social media or any other applications, using it to get your attention and make you glued to their platform. So you have to make sure not to get into those. Next, we have von Destroff effect. It is also known as the isolation effect. This effect predicts that when multiple similar objects are present, the one that differs from the rest is most likely to be remembered. So if you have this kind of a list, this only action, the call to action button is in different color. So users will remember that part only. Highlighted element like a call to action button to stand out from the rest design, it is easily noticeable by the user. I'm sorry. So if you put your call to action button, or you where you want your users attention mostly in a different color or different design, it will be remembered by your users than anything else in your screen. Okay, so those are the main UX laws that you have to remember when you try to do the design. And just learning theory is not enough. When you try to do the design, think of it and apply these effects, apply these principles and the UX laws in your designs, which will give you good user experience and which will give your users a good user experience when they're trying to interact with your system. So any questions so far regarding the UX laws? Okay, next we have wireframe. So in the UX process, I already talked about wireframing roughly. Today, I'm going to cover it in more detail. So wireframing is really important step in UX altogether. So when you gather requirements from user, when you empathize with your users, and when you create user personas, affinity diagrams, and user flow diagram, you have a good idea about who your users are, what are their expectations, what are their pain points, and who are your competitors. By having all this information in place, then you can move on to create wireframes. So wireframe is generally a monochromic drawing that's created in the design phase of design thinking process. It provides a blueprint of the page structure, layout, information, and functions. This in turn gives a clear idea to the stakeholders about the functioning and visual representation of application UI. So if you have a good wireframe in place, if you do your research thoroughly, if you do your competitor analysis, if you have a good idea about your users, you can create a good wireframes based on these inputs. So when you're creating a wireframe, there are three wireframe types, basic types. We are going to go through them later as well. So number one is low fidelity wireframe, where you can design a wireframe by just using a pencil and paper. You can sketch them out, whatever comes to your mind based on the research that you have done. You can put them on a paper, which will give you a better understanding about the user experience that you want to create. And then we have a mid fidelity wireframe, where we can optimize, or the where we can improve our sketches, the pencil sketches, and make it more presentable. So you can use some applications like Figma, or even sketch application, or even there's tool called Pencil, where you can create this low fidelity or the mid fidelity wireframes. And finally, we have high fidelity wireframes, where we have all the characteristics of our design, but the colors won't be there. The iconography and the colors won't be there, but you can present the hierarchy, and this is the area of the elements, and these are the placements of the elements. This is the contest. So you can create this kind of a blueprint and present it to your stakeholders, or the core team members, or even users to get their feedback. Okay. Why do UI and UX designers are using wireframes? Number one, it saves time. So even though it feels like now when you follow the process, you might think that why should we create wireframes? We can directly move on to the visual designing process with the research data we gathered. Now, let's say you do that and you directly move into the visual designing, or the color theme, or the typography and everything. So after some time, when you do the design and when you send it to your users or the stakeholders for the feedback, they give some feedback. And then you have to again do the design and change the visual design again. Might have to change the colors. You might have to change the placements of your elements and the hierarchy of your design. So everything will take you more time than spending some time on wireframes in the beginning. So it is a good practice to do these wireframes before moving on to your visual designing process. Number two, it helps gathering feedback. UX design functional testing. So if you have a good wireframes, the low fidelity wireframe and the mid fidelity wireframes, or high fidelity wireframes, you can send this to get feedback from your users. So maybe you can interview your users in your office premises, and you can give these wireframes to your users and see how they interact with these uh, diagrams. So it will give you an idea about what are the pain points, what are the roadblocks in this user flows, how you can improve your wireframes based on the feedback that users are giving. Then we have creating accurate designs. So by following all these feedbacks, by following uh, wireframes as a blueprint, UX designers or the UI designers, the visual designers will be able to follow these wireframes and create accurate designs. So they won't have to change their visual designs again and again when they have a good blueprint wireframes in place. Okay, as I mentioned, we have few wireframe types. Number one is low fidelity wireframes, We call them lo-fi as well. They are also known as a paper wireframes, which are created roughly. They do not contain detailed grids, scales, or pixels, but functions, contents, headings, topics are present in a raw form without an accurate structure. So as I mentioned, the low fidelity wireframes, we call them pencil and paper wireframes or the paper wireframes. We just add the functions, the main functions that you need, contents, headings, topics will be there like this. So the necessary information are there with the order, the use of law order. Then we have mid-fidelity wireframes. These types of wireframes can be commonly used for communication with the stakeholders and end-to-end users. Mid-fidelity wireframes contain grid, scale, and pixel. Hence, they are more accurate than low-fidelity wireframes. This makes it one of the most used types of wireframes among the UI and UX designers. So even though you created these kind of pencil and paper wireframes, sometimes it is hard for you to present them to your core team members or the stakeholders, or the client or even the users. So the presentable wireframes you can create are called mid-fidelity wireframes or the high-fidelity wireframes. So the basic idea behind this is to create a grid, the scale, the pixels. So users or the stakeholders will get an proper idea, will get a proper idea about how the different elements, how the placement of your designs will be, and the representation of your certain elements, the hierarchy, and they can get an idea about the scale and everything. So that is the reason we create mid-fidelity wireframe. It is presentable. So these are some examples of mid-fidelity wireframes. The actual designs look is there. So you can create this kind of a wireframes by using applications such as Figma itself, and also there's application called Pencil, the open source application. You can download and create this kind of a wireframes by using this application as well. Then we have high fidelity wireframes. Low fidelity and mid fidelity wireframes are devoid of feature images and written content. They make an appearance in high fidelity wireframes. With more concrete shape to UI components, this type of wireframe contains the complete blueprint of design and is most accurate and almost similar to visual design screens without much of colors. So in here we have high fidelity wireframes. You can see even though it is black and white or the gray color, they have all the typography and the call to action button placement, the image placement. So everything will be there. So only thing that less is the colors and the images. So when the visual designing, it will be easier for you to create this kind of a high fidelity wireframes and send them to your visual designer so they know. So these are the placements and this is the hierarchy and the functions of the design. So that is high fidelity wireframes. Okay, these are some wireframing tools. The first one is, you already know, it's Figma. This is SketchUp, and this is called Balasmic. It is also a good application, but with the Figma, you can do most of the wireframing as well. All right, any questions regarding wireframes? Deumi, any questions so far?
No.
Okay. How about Randika?
No, sir.
Okay. How about Fatima? All right. Samidu, how about you?
No, sir.
Okay. Sandali? All right. Okay, now let's discuss about the splash screen. The perfect splash screen. The splash screen was born out of a requirement for apps to spend a few seconds setting up before the user can get moving. Keep it simple with a short, elegant animation to present your app. Always remember the 3-second rule, and if you go over, show a loading indicator. So when you interact with an application, or nowadays even with a website, while they're loading all the necessary information in the background to show you, they will display you a splash screen or a loading screen. So if you open an application such as Uber or even PicMe or even Facebook, Instagram, they will display this kind of a splash screen where they show their logo in a white color or the black color background and keep it for little time. So that is the time that they are spending to load all the necessary stuff in the background. And you have to make sure the loading animation or the splash screen is simple and only have the animation and the one color. So it will give users uh, better understanding. So you have to make sure you keep it simple and short. Otherwise, it will distract your users, and some users won't like your application. So you have to make a good impression. So you have to make sure it to be simple and elegant if you're putting an animation. And you have to make sure if your animation, if you require more than 3 seconds to load your information in the background from the server, give them a progress bar. So it will give users what is idea about what is happening in the background. So if that is not happening, let's say your application is taking 10 seconds to load and your loading indicator, the splash screen, will show up for 10 seconds and users will think that this application is stuck or hung or something like that. So it is a good practice to give them a loading animation if it is taking more than 3 seconds. Load the absolute minimum data from the server, but making sure you have all the information needed to show the next screen immediately. Okay, now when you try to launch an application, the first screen that the dashboard or the first screen that we show our users will only have few data. It should not make so many requests with the server, so it will negatively affect the loading time of your application. So all the necessary data or the minimum data, absolute minimum data should be taken from the server, and you have to make sure to show the next screen immediately. So let's say for an example, we are showing our splash screen for 3 seconds, and then we are loading our dashboard with the minimum data. So that is that will take some time. So let's say for an example, 6 seconds to for users to request another page. So you have 6 seconds to load and get data from the server and prepare your next screen that users might use, and you have to provide it immediately. There are some cases that there will be so many information, so many data rows, and in those cases you can show a loading indicator. And in web designing or the mobile application designing, you can see that there's a thing called skeleton loader. So skeleton loader is something like that. Something like this. So it won't show you the, even in the Facebook we have that kind of a thing. It won't show you all the information or the details or the images because it is still getting those details from the server. In the meantime, they are showing you this kind of a layout, so you know that these are the areas that data will be populated. So it won't take much time. Actually, for a few seconds, they will show this skeleton later. It is actually a new thing that tech companies came up with to increase the user experience of the application. So that is a good user experience as well. Next one, integrate errors into your splash screen to avoid ugly pop-ups. Let's say for an example, you create an application. Uh, the main functionality of your application is a navigation, or this is a ride sharing application or the navigation application, but users don't have their location switched on their mobile device. So if you allow them to go inside your application without the location switched on, you might have to give them so many pop-ups. And if you don't give them pop-ups, your application won't work. So what you can do is, normally the applications such as PickMe and even Uber, if your location is not switched on when you try to launch the application, they will give you a message. They will give you a pop-up saying that you have to switch on your location service in order to access this application. So that is a good user experience. So you can implement the same thing when you're creating a product as a UX designer. Take this opportunity to ensure your users are running an up-to-date version of the app. And if they aren't, direct them to a stores to update. So most of the application, let's say for an example, you are using a banking applications which push so many security updates. So the updates in regular basis. So what you can do is when users click on this particular application during the splash screen, you can check with the server if this is the latest version. Are there any releases afterwards? And then if this is not the latest version, you can prompt them to, and you can guide them to click on a button and go and update their software or the application by browsing it on by going to a particular app store, Apple App Store or a Google Play Store. So that is a good user experience. And what you can do, how you can uh, make this splash screen in a productive way in order to address user issues as well as to provide better user experience and also face your technical challenges successfully when loading a design or loading an application. So in these three examples, the Uber kept it simple, the splash screen animation, but with a very nice animation to immerse you in the app experience. For continually changing content, it may be better to load images after the splash screen has completed. So this is a online article or a blog website. So they have to put so much content and images, and this will be updated in the daily basis. So they have put this kind of animation till all the necessary data is loading in the background. Shazam integrates the logo into the main interface seamlessly. So when you try to look for a music that you're already hearing, so the Shazam interface, even the logo, the splash animation, and also the main functionality uh, is similar. So they take some time by providing this kind of animation to listen to the whatever the song that you play and analyze it with their database and give you uh, the result of the analyzing process. Okay. This application, the X Confusion application, shows errors and update requests directly in the splash screen to avoid pop-ups. So as I mentioned, if you don't have internet connection, it will show up in the screen that you have to connect to the internet in order to use this service. And in here also, if they have updated their software after some time, you can check it on the splash screen, and it is not the latest software, latest application. You can send them a message like this and maybe guide them to the Play Store or Apple App Store and ask them to update the application. Okay, these are some streaming applications. This number one, the quiz applications. So I think during 2018 and 19, there was applications such as HQ and some online quiz application where they stream online quizzes. So users who sign up to this application have to watch live streaming and answer the questions that the trivia questions that these presenters are uh, presenting. So but this applications actually it is streaming application, so it will take so much time to load, especially in countries like Sri Lanka. During 2019-18 we had very slow internet connections, so it took so much of time to load. So in that particular time period, they have this kind of animation and the loading bar while they load all the information, all the necessary information, or the video information, the quiz information, or the participant information will be loading in the background. So that is why this kind of animation is useful for those kind of projects or the products. Okay. Now these are some top reasons people uninstall apps from their phones. Number one reason is not in use. So if I give you an example for not in use application, let's say for some period regarding your university days, you wanted to scan some lecture notes. So you downloaded Adobe PDF scan or something and scan these documents and save them in your computer. But after some time, you don't need to scan this anymore. So you delete this application. That is because you don't need this application, so not in use. Then we have limited storage. Some applications are taking so much of space in your mobile phone. So if you want to install another application, let's say, or you want to create a video recording, so it will prompt you to clear your space. So if you have limited storage, the first application you will delete is the one that takes so much of space if it is really you don't need it anymore. So that is limited storage. The next one is excessive advertising. So if you want to let's say you try to learn something, simple learn or any other application, they have free versions as well. So if you want to learn something, you have to download the application or even browse a website and try to learn. The only way that they earn money by providing this free user accounts is by advertising. But this, if these advertising are excessive, if they ask you to watch a video every time you want to play a game or refer to a tutorial, it is excessive advertising. So users will uninstall that application if it is really hard for them to uh, go through or they use this application. And next one is excessive notification. If your application is providing so many notifications, or even if it don't have any control over, if users don't have any control over their own notifications, users will deactivate it as well. So if it is sending so many push-up or the pop-up notifications, push-up notifications, or even email notification, text messages, and so on, it is really distracting for users. So they will deactivate or they delete that particular applications as well. Confusion. The confusion can come when we, let's say for an example, you say something in your application description and you are not doing it when when users downloaded the application. So that will confuse your users. Or even if you don't follow the user experience best practicals, the UX laws I show you, if you if they don't feel any familiarity when using your application, so they will get confused and delete your application. So that is another reason that users might delete or uninstall application. And if your application has so many bugs, so it is taking so much of time to load, and even if it is loading, it is not doing the task it is supposed to do, those are the technical issues. So you have to make sure you think about all of these when you launch an application. When you design an application, even you have to think of all these. So these are the top reasons people uninstall applications from their devices. Okay, so that is all about lecture 3. So we covered UX design with Figma. So I already put most of the classwork stuff up in here. The slides are here, and I added some extra resources as well. So if I go through this before the break, and type scale, I already introduced it to you, where you can select a typeface and test it right here. So it will give you a better idea about how it will show up in your screens when you decide a typeface, and it will give you the sizes and the hierarchy of the text as well. Okay, next one. Sorry, go from top, UX design. So this is a really important, really helpful guide with so many details if you want to learn more about the UX design. So if you follow this process, it will give you, it has good illustrations as well, so you can follow it up. And these are the topics they cover: by design, by now, industry overview. So I invite you to go through all this and learn more about the things that we didn't cover in our classroom. So it will give you a good idea about how you can approach it, how you can approach a UX project, what are the industry standards. So everything will be there documented. So there's another guide if you want information about mobile app UI design. These are some principles that you have to follow when you're designing a mobile application. So I covered most of them, actually all of them in the classroom. So you have to make sure that you know the wordings, know the jargons, the technology, and the UX terms when you want to work in a UX related job. So follow this one to uh, check your salaries. If you try to, after some experience, let's say you want to apply for a UX job in some other country. So this is a good source that you can check salaries and the career paths. You can become a UX designer, lead UX designer, and these are the final ones, and some FAQs. And you can search for salaries based on the location as well. This is another YouTube channel that you can follow, Design Sense. They are updating latest design trends, and you can get an idea. So another website, another YouTube channel. Okay, next we have this YouTube channel. If you're planning to start a business, design business or a design company, it is a good channel to follow. So they have tutorials, they have stories about different founders of different companies and how you can approach clients. What are the things that you should follow, the elevator pitches and everything. They will guide you about the whole UX design process and the how you can start up a business and work on it as well. So I introduced you to Dribble, where you can create your own portfolio. And if you need any design inspiration, let's say you want to design an application for the banking industry, you can search for the term banking or whatever the term you like, and it will display all the banking related designs that developers or the designers did previously. So you can get a design inspiration and apply these inspirations in your designs whenever you get a project from a client. Then we have Behance. We can use it for the similar thing. We can get a design idea, and also you can put your designs, like you can use this as a portfolio showcase to showcase your designs to your recruiters or the hiring managers and everyone. And finally, we have awards. Awards is actually for the websites, World Wide Web, and it will give you what are the standards. It is actually giving awards for the best websites. You can put your website up here, and users will vote and nominate your website for whatever the criteria. So if it is a portfolio, they have a different category. If it is a company website, and so on. So I use this website to get idea about what are the trends, industry trends, what are the latest designing trends, and what people like, what are the comments people are adding on different websites. So you can research and get to know about different websites. Okay, now these are some book suggestions. So I invite you to read this book, Design Out of Everyday Things. So it is a number one book that you can read regarding UX design. And this is Sprint. It is actually tell you about how to solve problems. It is a problem workout process, project management kind of book. So as a designer, you also should have a good idea about project management as well. So if, let's say for an example, when you work in a company, most of the time you have to work on different projects simultaneously. Most of the time, 2 3 projects at the same time. So uh, by having a good project management skills, you can prioritize what projects that I should complete within a given time frame. What are the projects that I should give most attention to? So having that kind of a knowledge and the practice is also really important when you get a job. And the business model generation is another book that I want you to read, especially if you want to create a product or start a company, design company. So that is another book that you can follow. So these are some books. They have PDFs as well if you try to find them, and you can read this Win Without Pitching Manifesto. It is actually about how you can pitch an idea to a client about the product that you are going to do by using UX design. And then we have Creative Strategy and Business of Design. So that is about the creative strategy. And all these books will be helpful for you if you want to become a good UX designer. So I have added more books that I read recently. So I invite you to download the PDF. Most of these have PDF versions. If not, there are some online versions as well, the extract of these books, and even in the YouTube, they have videos about these books. So I invite you to read or watch or follow them and get an idea. Okay. So this is the capstone project that you have to do during next week and submit on July 14th. So that is on next Saturday midnight. So you can actually submit it before the lecture. So I just put in the Saturday at 12 midnight. So you have to create a design, you have to design a travel experience application. So is everyone here? Yes. Okay. The objective is the goal of this assignment is to prompt students to create a concept design for a travel experience application, focusing on user engagement and intuitive interface within a 1 week time frame. I will change this. Task description. You are part of a design team working on a revolutionary travel experience application that connects users with personalized local experiences during their trips. Your task is to design the interface for this application, prioritizing ease of use, personalization, and engagement. Can you give me an example of travel experience application? Anyone? An application where you can book a hotel or book a travel destination or anything? Samidu? Randika? Okay. So the competitor applications that you can take as examples are applications like TripAdvisor and even Booking.com. And there are some other applications as well. So these are travel experience application where you can book a travel destination or search about a travel destination and book a hotel there and get some information as well. Okay. Let's go back to our classroom. So these are assignment guidelines. You have to follow the UX process. So number one, brainstorm and outline the key features that travel experience application should offer. Consider using personalization, discovery, booking, and engagement. Draft a concept of a user story to guide your design process. So you first have to brainstorm and outline the key features of the travel application that should offer. So those can be some basic details. So for an example, it should have a sign up process and it should have a listing of the or the travel destination or the hotels. So I don't want you to create a complete application. Just put some key features. The signing up should be there, and the listing of the traveling places or the travel experiences should be there. And the information about one of these traveling places. I don't want you to put all the information. just take one travel destination and put information about that in your user interface, so that it also should be there. And you have to consider user personalization. So the personalization can be done like this. So when you're signing up, you can ask few questions from your user, and understand them. For an example, you can ask, what are the uh, travel areas you prefer? Do you prefer beaches or do you prefer greenery? So by asking these questions, you can get to know about your users and their traveling habits or traveling preferences. And then you have to put discovery. Discovery means you have to put all the travel destinations in one dashboard screen. I will show you an example as well. And booking and engagement. Booking is where you can click a button and make a booking. And engagement can be, users should be able to add comments, or even add likes or react to certain destinations. And you have to draft a concept uh, of a user story to guide your process. So I already told you how to create a user story. So you have to create one user story. Take only one user. Uh, Even though if you have time, you can interview 1, 2 users. And I want you to create one user story and create the application based on that user only. So that will give you more time to work on one user, rather than taking so many users will take you so much time to work on the application. So I want you to follow the process, but only take one user story and guide your design process based on the story that user has given. You can interview one of your friends who is traveling like regularly, or even if you are a traveler, you can take yourself as an example and build a user story based on that for this particular assignment only. But when you developing an application for actual market, you have to carry out interviews with different users. Next, you have to create low fidelity wireframes illustrating the layout and flow of the application. Focus on user interactions, information hierarchy, and ease of navigation. So after you come up with a user story, and maybe use a flow diagram if you have time, uh, so where you can guide your user. For an example, after signing up, what is the next step? After signing up, the step can be taking them to the dashboard, and on the dashboard they will select one travel destination. Let's say, for an example, let's go in here. Okay. After signing up, we are displaying them this particular screen, and they will select one of these places. So let's say I'm going to select this place, and then I want you to display some details about this place in a layout as well. So that is the only thing that you have to do. Signing up, creating the landing page in like this. It is a mobile application, but I'm showing you a web application so you can get an idea. And then when they select this kind of a place, or if you can give them a reserve button or a booking button, and when they select this, you have to give them information about this particular place as well. Okay. And by referring to that, you have to create a low fidelity wireframes. You can use pencil and paper. And when you submitting your assignment, I want you to take a picture of that and submit it with your submission itself. And you can upload it to Google Classroom, the submission form itself. And use Figma preferred or a design tool of your choice. Craft a high fidelity design for app interface. Emphasize visual appeal, consistent design language, and intuitive user interactions. So you can use Figma because we did Figma in the classroom, but if you are familiar with any other tools such as Adobe XD or even SketchUp, you can use those as well, but Figma is preferred. You can create high fidelity designs based on these wireframes and based on the research that you have done, and create app interfaces. So app interfaces should have visual appeal. So visual appeal, you can decide on a color theme. You can decide on the typography. You can decide on the images or the iconography. So everything you have to add in this Figma layout. So I told you how to create components. If there's any reusable buttons, reusable images, reusable stickers, or the cards, you can create components as well. It is not necessary, but as a good practice to learn, you have to create components. Develop an interactive prototype of the app design to showcase its functionality and user flow. Prepare a short pitch presentation outlining the app's concept, key design elements, and walkthrough of the interactive prototype. Explain how the design enhances the travel experience. So after you create the visual design, I want you to create a prototype. So the prototype creation, I will guide you through the process today. So you have to create the prototype with by connecting all these designs. Let's say you created few screens, 4 screens. You have to connect these 4 screens each other and create an interactive prototype, which means when I click a sign up button, it will take me to the sign up page. When I click on a particular travel destination, it should give me information about that particular travel destination. So that is the click through prototype. Okay. Those are the guidelines. These are the evaluation criteria. Number one, I'm going to evaluate concept and the ideation, originality of the travel app concept and consideration of the user needs. So I have given few user needs and you have to make sure you put that in your designs as well. Wireframes. You have to create wireframes so in that way I can understand the clarity of your designs and the logic that you thought of when you create the user flow and the final design. UI design, application of design principles, visual appeals, and consistency in high fidelity design. So those are the things you have to display or they present in your high fidelity designs, the UI design. Prototype and pitch, functionality and coherence of the interface prototypes, as well as quality and clarity of the pitch presentation. So the pitch presentation, actually, it don't have to be a PowerPoint or slide presentation. If you can guide us through, guide the classroom through the process that you follow from the getting an idea about the application from the this documentation and what is the UX process that you follow, how you gathered requirement, how do you interview people, how you uh, ask questions, what are the questions you ask, what are the competitors that you analyze. So all these things, if you can guide me through the process but verbally without any presentation by sharing your screen and showing the Figma presentation and maybe the wireframes you took photos, that will be enough. So I don't want you to create a presentation and spend much time on that. Just spend time on the research and the creation of the Figma prototype. This assignment challenges study students to apply the UI and UX skills to create an engaging scenario, focusing on designing a user-friendly travel experience app that reflects both innovative thinking and user-centered design. Okay, so the things that you have learned in the classroom, the theory and the practicals, you have to apply this in the real world scenario. In this case, the travel experiencing application. You have to create a user-friendly design. So you have to make sure it is accessible. And the color themes that you are choosing should be accessible by any user. And the typography. So you have to make sure you have a good rationale, you have a good explanation about why did you choose different colors, what this color represent, who are your target users. You can have different target users during your research. One of you can have a target users as Europeans or even let's say for an example office workers or kids or students. So your target users is actually independent to you. When you do the research, you can decide on your target users. Take one of these target users and uh, create the engaging scenario based on those users and their requirements. So deliverables are share Figma link, a high fidelity design and interactive prototype. Uh, so if you create a presentation, you can do that, but it is not necessary. You can submit the wireframes and any supporting material that you can provide that you followed during the assignment. So if you have any questions, you can email me or you can ask a question on WhatsApp group chat as well. So is it clear? Any questions regarding the assignment before we move on to do some sample project? You can send a message as well if there's any questions regarding the assignment. Okay. Now let's move on to UX design process. So this is the UX design process we talked about in the classroom. I want you to follow the same process. Okay, Devami is asking a question, so can I know more details about the user story? So user story, when you, let's say for an example, you interview one of your friends who is traveling regularly. So but when you interview them, you have to ask certain questions to get input, get an idea about this particular user. So let's say you ask some questions. Question number one, how often do you travel? Question number two can be, do you prefer beaches or hill country or mountains? So, and then number three can be, are you traveling alone or are you traveling with a team or a family? So those kind of questions you can ask and get idea about this particular user. So after getting an idea about this particular user, we talked about creating persona. Let's open a persona. So this is the example we took the other day as well. Then after interviewing your user, sorry, we can create this kind of a persona with his name and the image of him. Or you can, if you don't like to put an image, you can create a stock photo, but it should represent his background and add a motto or a quote that he had given during the interview. And then some qualities about him, motivations, personality, behaviors and habits and frustrations. So those basic things should be there when creating a user story or a persona. So based on the persona that you have created, I want you to create an application for that particular user only. You can neglect all the other users and create the application for this particular user only. So in that way, you don't have to spend much time on interviewing other people, but you have to make sure when you do the actual design to the market, you have to interview so many people and gather requirement from them and create different personas for different people with different backgrounds and implement the design based on that. But in the assignment, the one persona will be enough. Is it clear? Yeah, this application is actually only mobile application. So you have to create a mobile application only. You don't have to worry about the tablet size or the uh, desktop size. So only mobile application should be there. So I will give you an example after the classroom as well. So after this session, so it will be easier for you to follow up. Randika, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay, let's move on. Okay, in the empathizing process for in regarding to this travel experience application, I want you to interview one user and get to know about his requirements. You can ask the questions as I said to get to know this person and make a note, or you can give them a Google form or something like that with different options, or you can do a one-on-one actual physical interview and get to know this user. So after the interview, what you can do is you can define, you can analyze what you have learned about this user by creating user persona or user flow diagram. Even user persona will be enough. So after creating the persona, I want you to create wireframes for these mobile screens. So this is a mobile application. Create wireframes based on the uh, requirements of this user, and your competitor analysis also should be there in the defined process. You can analyze two different competitors maximum. You can analyze booking.com, TripAdvisor, or any other application that you prefer, mobile applications, and ideate based on what you have learned from the competitors and this one user. So in the ideation process, I want you to create pencil and paper wireframes by referring to the things that you have learned. And then after the ideation, if you have time, you can send it for the feedback. But if you don't have time, you can directly move on to the prototype or the visual design phase. So the visual designing phase, you can do it in Figma application. You can create like with the wireframes that you have created, you can create a visual design by selecting a certain color theme, the colors. So you have to rationalize your color design decisions as well. So why I will ask you, why did you choose this color? And why is this typography? So you have to have a good reason behind selecting this particular color in your designs as well. And then finally, to the prototype, the click to the prototype, you can test your design and you can present it to the classroom. So in the classroom, when you're presenting, you can share your screen and you can present your Figma design. If you have any supporting materials such as wireframes, you can show them as well. So I will ask you a few questions regarding it. Is not hard questions. I just wanted to know that your design process and you learn things in the classroom correctly that you can follow when you get a job opportunity. So that is the process that we are going to follow. So this slide in the Google Classroom, you can follow this process when you do the project. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. If you have any questions, you can ask on WhatsApp or you can send an email to my email address mentioned in the Google Classroom assignment. Okay, now let's create a travel experience application, something similar. I got another question. Okay, Demi is asking, sir, in where we add the user story UI? I have no clear idea about it. So in Figma itself, you can create user stories. So if you open Figma, new file, in Figma Jamboard, we have layouts for user stories. So you can click this start with template button right here and uh, let's create. You're asking about user story or a persona? User story. So if you want to create a persona, first you can use this layout. And you can put their picture right here and all the information here and interest, influences, goals. You can remove unnecessary stuff and keep all the required things that we discussed. So this is the user story. So user flow diagram. Let's create another one. And use something like this or even the flowchart diagram like this in order to display the user flow. So if I give you an example, let's say travel XP. So let's take this one for an example. Okay, so this is the starting screen, splash screen, and then we have onboarding process. You can add an onboarding process. So onboarding process, as I mentioned, is something that we give information. I think we created one onboarding process in our classroom as well. So I will go through it as well. And then after the onboarding is a process that we give information about our application to our users. And then we have sign up screen. So after signing up, we are guiding them to the home screen. And then in the home screen, maybe we have the trip list. And when they click on trip list, the trip details will be there. So if I create the user flow or diagram I require for this particular design, so it can be something like this. Splash screen, I require onboarding and maybe login screen and home screen and details. So those are the only things that I require. So if I take a screenshot of this, put it in here. Okay, number one is the splash screen. Then we need to have onboarding. If you have time, I will paint it in a different color. We have sign up. Then need to create the home screen. When users click on the home screen, it's information details. So if I this is the user flow, the simple user flow I require. So if I add some details in here, this is optional. You can skip this and go to the next one as well. So then login sign up screen, then home screen. So home screen, destination details before that. So this is the simple user flow diagram if they do the things correctly, but if they don't do the things correctly, for an example, if they have issues with the signing up or login, it will direct them to the splash screen. So that things I don't want to add to the user flow because you only have 1 week to do the assignment, but make sure to keep those things in mind. So the user flow that you create should address all these issues that users might be facing as well. So this is the simple user flow diagram for your design. The splash screen we discussed today with the logo and background should be there. And if you have time, you can create onboarding process where we display two or three screens with all the information, that things that we can do in this application. So onboarding screen is kind of like this. So let's three talked about it in the wireframes. Okay, something like this. So you can give them a skip option, and also they can move with these arrow keys. So that is something you have to put if you have. And then home screen, after they're signing up or login, they will come to the home screen. In the home screen, we display travel destinations. Display travel destinations. And once user click on one of these travel destinations, we will take them to the destination details page. So destination details page, I need you to image of the destination should be there, heading, the name, and then small description, call to action buttons, book, cancel, or whatever should be there, or the payment icons. You can decide on the layout. So these are the basic things. Okay. So this is the only part that you have to consider, even though this application have so many options. Uh, After the submissions, when you try to find a job, when you try to put a project on your portfolio, you can follow this kind of a user flow diagram and create a complete application. So it will help you to put something complete in your portfolio. Okay. So is it clear, Deomi? All right. Okay, let's follow the same user flow diagram and create an application based on this. So I'm going to create a new page. Let me Okay, these are the pages that I've created for everyone. You can do the submission in your own Figma board, but I'm going to create a design, the sample design here. So let's name this as B21 project. Invite you there. Just share the link on Zoom chat. Can you join the link I just provided? This is the user flow diagram. I will copy it as well. Okay, now after you gather your requirements, let's say you have a user story and everything, and I will start from the user flow diagram. So the first thing we have to create is the splash screen. then onboarding, then login, sign up, then you have to follow this process. So let's start off by creating a splash screen. So I will create it here so you can have a good idea about the process as well. The first thing I have to do is I have to create the frame. So this is a mobile application. So I will go to this phone option and then I will select this iPhone 14 to create my design. So I will name this as splash screen. And then what I have to do is I have to decide and create a logo. So I will create a simple logo for my travel experience application. I can some color like this, be a font. Let's say now this is my logo. I'm going to make this flattened text so I can increase and decrease the size of that. And I'm going to put this inside a group. Now remember, when you create a logo, you can put it inside a group. But when you do a design in Figma, the responsive design, you have to put it inside a frame. So the logo, I put it inside a, I created it a group. So I'm going to name this as this here logo, and we can put it here. So it is little too big. I'm going to reduce the size of it to, let's say, 120 by 120. So make sure to toggle this before you switch it on. So this is my logo. So the splash screen. So after creating the splash screen, I have the onboarding process. So let's do something else. I will put the background color as yellow. Then the logo color can be white. The text can be this yellow. Okay, this is my splash screen for now. And then we have onboarding process. So onboarding process, actually you can have 3 steps. So in order to create the onboarding process, I'm going to remove the logo from here and put the fill color back to the white color because it will be easier for me to think and do the design. So in the onboarding process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say travel onboarding. You can search for something like that and then get an idea about what to put in your onboarding process. Take this one for an example. Step loading. I'm going to copy this image. So we can have something similar. So I'm not going to create the onboarding screen. So you can put an image like this and then matching images. So three images, three graphics that you put should match with each other. So it should be uniform, because otherwise if you put different images, it will affect the uniformity or the consistency of your design as well. So make sure to put three graphics. If you good at illustrations, you can illustrate something, or you can find designs or images on free stock images sites such as pixels, or even what is the other thing? I will send you some links on Google Classroom where you can get the resources as well. So after you creating this onboarding process, let's put this here. This is the first screen, onboarding one. Then we have onboarding 2, onboarding 3. So onboarding 2 to this screen right here. And onboarding 3. So I just put images to demonstrate you. You have to create these elements yourself. Okay, these are my onboarding screens. So after the onboarding, I want you to create a login or sign up form. So I will create the login or sign up form. So this is go away. Won't so sign. Okay, now I'm going to put background color to this one. Maybe put our logo here. And in order to create a login or sign up screen, I need few items. So I first need input element. So I'm going to create an input component right now. So I'm going to create a text. We reduce the text size to 24. Change the color of the text to something that we can see properly. So I'm not going to go in detail about the color selection or anything. I'm just trying to demonstrate it to you. So I'm not going to spend time on color matching or anything. So you have to spend time and select the colors that you like, or select the colors that your users like, your own. So after creating this, I'm going to put this inside a frame, and let's name it as input and make it auto layout. Add some padding, let's say 30 on y-axis and say 10 on y-axis. And I will add it a small fill. And I want my text to be aligned left hand side like this. Okay, and then maybe put some border radius as well. Let's give it 100. Okay. I need email, and then I might need the password. So I'm going to copy this password from here. But before that, let me create a component by using this one. So in order to create a component, what you can do is you can with height is hugged. So this is responsive here. And then what I can do is I can create another element by using this. I will take them out from the board first. This is the component creation. One first component is inactive. So in that case, I'm going to change the color of this to 50% maybe, or yeah, 50%. I'm going to give it a placeholder text. Insert your let's say you at email.com. So that is my first screen, first instance. Then when users try to input the email, let's say I'm trying to input the email. And this is my cursor. So I'm going to change the color of that. So this one is inactive. This is active. This is completed. This part. Okay, these are the three states of my input box. So I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside and make it a component. So we have option right here. So last time when I described it to you, the components was right here, but Figma have changed their UI. So you can select create multiple components from here. So now we have 3 components. So sorry, you have to create component set. So I have created a component. So let's say this is input component and it has active, inactive, and these 3 states. Okay, now let's go to our asset section. You have to create a component set, not a component. Let's see where we can access that. Here, you have to search it, create component set, and let's name it as input. Okay, now we have our input with 3 variants. So I'm going to edit here, and right now the variant I have selected is inactive and it has completed an active states as well. Okay, this is the first item. Let's rename this as property to state. And then we need another one to put the email address. Password. So I'm going to name it as password. Okay, now I have these 2 components right here. I'm going to put them inside a frame. And let's call it wrapper. So wrapper has a background color, something lighter than that. Let's use this one. And I want it to be auto layout as well. I want my elements to vertically align. So that is there and centered as well. Then let's put some padding, 30, 30. Width of contents. So the actual width of this one is 430 and I'm going to give it something. Let's give it that actual width 430. If I remove 60, 270. Sorry, 370. Okay, now we're going to center line it. So now this is my elements. So if I want to fill container, this is also should be fill container, and this element should have border radius of 30. Okay, I have username and password right here, and then what I need is to create a button. So the call to action buttons, I'm going to use the same call to action buttons everywhere in the screen. So let's create that one as well. So let's make it here, then travel icon right here, and maybe we can put a background image as well. Let's keep draw a frame for our image. Okay, this is our image, and I'm going to name it as background because it is the okay. This is our design. Let's go to this one. It's my form. So now I want to create a button, the call to action button. So in order to do that, I can follow the same this thing that I did for the form. So let's create a text and sign up, and I'm going to change the typography from here. I want it to be in sentence class like this. So the first letter of each word is capitalized, and change the font size to 32. So let's create the button, frame selection, call this button, maybe put a background color, fill color. I'm going to use blue color as my fill color. So get this blue color for now, and then auto layout 40 by 20. Let's put 60 by 20, and maybe add a border radius to this one as well. Okay, let's place this right here. And button also will have few states. So in order to create that, I'm going to create, this is the inactive state of the button. So I'm going to make it 50, the appearance, make it as active. This one is active, and this is version. I want to increase the darkness of the blue color to differentiate. So these are the three buttons. So I'm going to again create a component set and call it a button. State these. So I have my second component set right here. So I have forms. Now I have a button. So I can access it by going to asset section, and it is right here. If I go to here, it will display. So you have to make sure you put it in the right place as well. Okay, now let's put it inside a frame, or we can put it inside the same frame that we already created, the wrapper, like this, and change the placement of that. So it should display right here. Fill container. Okay, now this is my sign up form. So in the sign up form, you have to give an option to, if they forgot the password, you have to add forgot password link here. And I don't want to create a forgot password screen, but the link should be there. So that is how you can create a sign up or the login form. So design is, it is somewhat not good, but I just want to show it to you how you can create different components and create the design. So that is our login screen. So in the home page creation, what I want you to do is, now let's create the home page. I'm going to remove this image. The home page, I think we already created one in the classroom similar to this. Okay, no. In the home page, I will have this kind of layout. Let's put something material symbols. So you can install the material symbols plugin by go to plugins and widgets section and search for the plugin, and it has option called run. You can install it, and then I want some icons to be added to my home screen. The first one I need is the menu icon or the list icon. I'm going to use this one. So this is my menu icon. I can change the size of it to maybe 48 for you to view it clearly. So I'm going to place it right here. So another thing I forgot to mention is, now when you do the designing, make sure to put your layout grid on as well. So in the layout grid, we selected columns, and for the mobile design, we need 4 columns. So 4 columns should be there, and maybe at a margin of 30. Okay, now this is for the other screens also. Please do the same thing. So I'm going to place it right here. Then I need a profile picture as well. So in order to create a profile picture, I'm going to create another frame. Give it a size 64 by 64 and fill color of this color for now. Let's see, and border radius, I need it to be a circle. So this is the border radius. And maybe align these two together. This one is 48, so this is also, will size it to 48, so it will maintain the consistency. Okay, now I'm going to go to Google, get a headshot, some person. Let's use this one. Paste it right here and resize it to align with our circle. Okay, now I have an image and the menu. So this is my navigation. So I'm going to group them together, put it inside a frame selection, and then auto layout. Then let's give it a name, navi, let's say. Okay, now it is my header. So if I select the header, it has these two options, menu, and I have to put my image there as well. I'm going to name it as dp side header to paste it. So I have these two items right here. So right now it's next to each other. So I don't want it to be next to each other. So let's, the size of this is 430. I want my header to have 30 pixels margin from the each side. So when I reduce that value from 430, 430, 30 pixels from each side, it's 60. So 370. And then I'm going to center align it as well. And then I want this to be all the way on the right hand side. So in order to do that, what I can do is you can put auto right here. So it will make it all the way to the right. So number of the, so let's say I have another picture here. It will share the space, like similar space in the horizontal axis. So it will share based on whatever the elements you have in that particular frame. So that is my navigation. So after creating the navigation, I want to put a heading, maybe hello with the name of the person. So let's create a type right here. Let's say hello, John. Okay, this is my welcome text of the screen. So I can put it right here. And then I will display some of the traveling places. So in order to display traveling places, I have to create different components to display those. So now I'm going to create some components to display those traveling areas. The first thing I need is an image. So in order, let's say we have header here, home here, and I want two images to display in a slider or a scrollable layout. So let's create that part now. The image, the first image I need is, let's say, so 75 in 2075. So this is my image. I'm going to put image right here. So how is it bring to front? Username and password box behind the image. So I'm sorry, I just saw it now. So if I paste it right here, say I have my background on top. So one thing you can do is you can drag these elements. So you can see the background is the uppermost element. So you can drag it all the way down and it will go behind all the screens. And another way that you can do it is you can select whatever the element that you like, and there's option to uh, bring to front, send to back. So you can use these elements just like in the word processor, Microsoft Word. You can bring to front or send to back. Is it clear, Samidu? Okay, cool. All right, now I have this particular container. Let's look for a landscape image again. Uh, let's put something nice. Let's take the first one. It's taking some time to load. Say this. Okay, maybe this one. Okay, this is my image, and I'm going to reduce the size of it to fit my box. All right. You have to make sure to press the shift key, otherwise it will affect your image aspect ratio as well. Okay, now I have an image. Now I need some heading and the description and a call to action button. So now let's create a heading. So I can copy the same thing I created here and reduce the font size to 16 maybe. And let's call this some location. Go to our travel advisor. Let's use this image instead. Select the image, paste on it. Let's call it statue. Okay. And then I need some description text. I'm going to copy the same description they have. And make sure to draw a paragraph for that because we have so much of text there. Now let's change it to light and the font size can be 12. This one line height is 100%. Oh, let's give on. Okay. Now the regular and maybe the color to some lighter gray version. Okay, now we have Statue of Liberty and the description. Now I want to add a call to action button. So I will use the same call to action button I created earlier. So it is actually too big. So let's create another one. Another variant of this. You can create variants by adding another content property. So I'm going to create a variant and then it's the size value. This one is 2x, double the size, and I'm going to create 3 more variants for this. This one size is 1x. So I'm going to reduce the font size of this to 16. Let's give it 20. Even this one, I'm going to change it to 20. Even this one is 20. Now when you're importing the button, few options. You have states we already created and all the sizes as well. So if I select 2x, it will display 2x. 1x is something small. Let's remove it and go back to our design. Get the button right here and change the size to 1x. Still a little bit larger, so I'm going to reduce the size, the padding size as well. So give this 30 pixels and 10 pixels. Doing the same thing for these two as well. 20, 10. So it will look like this. Now we can change the text to something meaningful, read more. Okay, now this is my card. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this inside a frame. Select all, frame selection, and let's rename it as a card. The card, I'm going to remove this grid line for a minute. Hide it. So now this is my card. And then I'm going to give it a fill color. The white color will be okay. I'm going to change this one's background color to something gray color so you can see the difference, or something yellow because we use the yellow color in our designs, something like this. So now this is my card. So inside the card, I want it to be auto layout. So this is auto layout, and then let's add some padding. 30 pixels. 30 pixels is too much. 10 pixels. Even it is 10 pixels. And then I need it to have 6 pixels gaps between each other, and maybe this one some border radius as well. And let's put some effects and drop shadow. So it will look like this. Put image, the border radius as well. Let's put it 5. So make sure to put half of the value of the outermost element as a border radius for the image or the whatever inside that particular frame. So it will give you this kind of layout. So the button is still a little bit larger actually. So let's reduce the size again for some things. So one thing you can do is, if you select this text, if you want to select other text with similar properties, you can go to edit, select all with same properties, and it will select others with the same properties as well. So I'm going to reduce the font size to 14 pixels maybe. Let's see our design. Now it look much nicer. Okay, now let's align them properly to center of the design. Even this one should be center line and center line as well. So this is the first card. So I'm going to make it a component because I need to use it everywhere I need. But in order to make it a component, I might need it to have any other states as well. Let's say when users trying to click on it, I want it to be displayed in a different color. So I'm going to take this one out from the screen as well. Maybe put it here where I have all my components, and this one is let's say default state. Next I have hover state. So in the hover state, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a stroke like this. The background color of the stroke is yellow color that we have selected already. Stroke with these 4 pixels, and stroke should be inside, so that is fine. Okay, now let's change, put this one inside a component set as well. Go in here and then create component set. That's card and state default and state default and this one. So let's put this inside here. Go to assets and you have your card here and switch on layout grid. Sorry, switch on columns and put this right here. That is one card, so I might need few of these. So I will create few copies, 5 or 6 copies. Right now you can't see because all of them are pasted in the same place. So let's, so I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 cards. So I want them to be inside a frame. So I'm selecting all these and frame selection, and let's call it destinations slider, and auto layout like this. just on the inside that we have this. Okay. And let's switch off auto layout and it will display like this. Now you can see it is not aligned properly. In order to make it align properly, you can okay. Some of them can't be seen. So we have an option here called flip content. We can switch on show content in order to see all the elements in that particular screen. So I'm going to remove this one for now. Okay, now I have 6 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements in this initial slide. I want them to have a space in between. Let's put some space. Let's put 15. All right. So this is my so let's change some of the images in here so you get a better idea. Copy image, paste it right here, and then for this copy image, sorry, paste it right here, copy image, paste it, this one, copy image, paste. Okay, now I have a few different cards, but the content is similar. I'm not going to change it right now, so you can change it by clicking on this text and change the content to whatever the content that you like, even for buttons and the description text. So now this. Now see how we can scalable component. So right now, if I want to, okay, now if I want to make a prototype with this, how I can do that? Okay, let's start off with the splash screen and finally we do this scrollable prototype. So in order to create a prototype, what we can do is we first have to create our first screen, that the flow starting point. So flow starting point is right now this one. So I selected that and go to prototype tab right here and click on this plus icon in the flow starting point. So you can change your flow name by giving it a different name right here. So I'm not going to do it right now. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to there's a plus icon right here. So I'm going to add it. I'm going to click on it and drag it to the second screen I want to go. So right now this is the first screen. So after some time, I want it to move to the next screen. So in order to create the trigger, I will make it after delay. So after some delay, it will move on to the second screen. So that is the reason I want it to have. So next one, so let's assume that we have a button right here for the demonstration purposes. So next one, the button, after you click the button, the users will be go to this particular the on tab. We are going to onboarding screen. Then after they arrive here, the third screen should be connected to this one. So you can see the arrows. After some delay, this one will appear, and then this one, and then this one. So after you click here, we are going to go to the home screen, the login screen. So if they log in successfully, we are going to take them. So let's add that control with sign up button only, and then we're going to take them to this screen. So you have controls over animation as well. So I'm going to put smart animate in here. So all the other things are not smart animated. This one is smart animated. So let's play our flow and see how is it behaving. Okay, so you can see I didn't even move the mouse. After some time, it loaded this particular screen. So if I click on this, it will take me to this one. Again, I click on it, it will take me to this particular screen. So if I click somewhere else, it will ask me to click on the sign up button. This area is not clickable. So if I click on the sign up button, it will show me this particular final layout that I created. So let's make this one scrollable. So in order to do that, what you have to do is select this frame that you have created. You put your cards, all the cards inside a certain, the outermost frame. Select that. I named it as destination slider. So I selected that and go to prototype section right here. Then we have options called scroll behavior, position and overflow. In the overflow, select horizontal because I want it to scroll horizontally. Let's select horizontal. So now let's play our prototype again. Now you can see it is scrolling horizontally, but it is not working properly. So you can't scroll all the way to the end of the cards. So it is because we have our frame up until here. So I want it to be stopped in my main frame, the home frame. Right now, it is stringing up until the last card. So I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be stop when I at the end of the screen right here. So make sure to put it right at the end. So if I open my design again using the prototype, sign up, and then I can scroll all the way through like this. So that is how you can create a scrollable button. So you can see that my navigation bar is not displaying up here. So let's see what is the reason for that. So I don't have my navigation bar header inside that particular frame. So that is the reason. So in order, what I can do is I can drag it and put inside the home. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it like Control plus X on your computer and then select the home screen and paste it again. So now it will be inside my design. Sign up. So all the things are here. So you can see I can scroll this as well. So now you can scroll it horizontally. So let's say I want to add another design like this, another scrollable view. So I can add it by copying this and replacing the images by clicking on this. You have to go to design tab and replace the images like I did earlier. Now let's say you want it to be horizontally. Now, let's say you have few more of designs like this and you want them to be vertically scrolled as well. So you will get an idea when I paste it here. Now we have content overflowing our image horizontally and vertically both. So in order to make that, now if I open this one again as a prototype, you will see what is I'm talking about. So I have content right here. This is scrollable. This is scrollable. So in the diagram design, I have more content down. So right now I can't access any of this because it is not scrollable horizontally. So in order to make it scroll horizontally, what I can do is I can select all these screens that I just created. These three, first one, second one, and the third one. Second, let's remove this. And I'm going to create another destination slider right here at the bottom. Let's put all three in another frame. Frame selection. Let's say content. Okay, now my content. And I want it to be horizontally scroll, like vertically scroll available. So overflow, vertical. Similar to what we did earlier, I enabled horizontal scrolling. This time I need vertical because this content is overflowing vertically. So I'm going back to prototype and play the prototype. And now let's see how is it going to work. So horizontal scroll is working and the vertical scroll, the images are there, but the horizontal vertical scroll is not working properly. You can see it is coming down, like not allow me to scroll properly. So we can do the same thing that we did earlier. We can reduce the overflow amount by selecting this and making it inside our frame only. So let's go back. So right now I have more options right here. You can scroll everything. So that is how you can create a horizontal scroll. So you can see the text hello John Doe. It is kind of go behind my particular elements. So we can have to avoid that as well. So what I can do to avoid that, we can put these two inside a frame like this. Let's call it top. And maybe we can put background color for that. Okay. And then make it auto layout and padding 30. This one also I need it to be 30. So if I open my design right now, it won't overflow, it won't go beyond that particular text, over that particular text, I'm sorry. So that is how you can create a home screen. So I want you to create a detailed home screens. I created most of the screens that you require. Those are not nice, but you get the idea how you can create the design, how you can use different elements to create this particular user flow. So please follow the video and try to create reusable components as much as you can when you do the design. And during the design, if you have any questions, you can ask using email or WhatsApp group chat. And next week, what I'm going to do is we're starting at 9 and you have to present what you have did during the week, the project. And then after the presentation, I will ask you a few questions, some easy questions to understand your UX design process and to check whether you understand what you have learned in the classroom correctly. And after everyone present their designs, we will have a Q&A where you can ask questions about the doubts you have when creating a designs and the challenges you faced. And you can ask any of these questions regarding the course, whole course, and also regarding the assignment. And in the end, I will give you some tips, 20 tips to find a job or find a freelancing opportunity uh, by the things you by using the things that you learned in the classroom and apply uh, to find a job opportunity. So is everything clear? Do you have anything I want to Is there anything that you want me to clarify or explain more? We have few minutes, so you can tell me if you don't, if you want me to do any other exercises or any other Figma practicals before you start on with the project. Deumi?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. How about Fatima? All right. Randika? All right. How about Samidu?
No, sir. Thank you.
Sandali?
No, sir. But I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we need to create a document including UX process?
No, actually, if you have created the wireframes and the user flow diagram like this, I actually don't need the user flow diagram. I just created for demonstration. If you can
Mm.
present it in a Figma board like this by pasting your wireframes here, it will be okay. It is enough actually. Is that clear?
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, so that is it for today's session. So let's get back next week at 9 a.m. where we're going to discuss, are going to present your designs and I will give you some reviews as well. So have a nice day then. Bye bye.